In this video, we're going to learn how to fix a new problem that we created when we limited our data set to just the rows for our particular state. Specifically, we're going to learn how to put header rows onto our columns or fields. And the reason that we need header rows is twofold. One, it's going to make it easier for us to execute future tasks by identifying them by the header row instead of having to identify them by a placeholder of F5, F6, etc. The other thing is that without going back to the underlying data set, we don't have a great idea about what information is presented in each of these fields or columns. So it's nice to have the header rows so that we can quickly evaluate what data it is that we're looking at in each of these fields. In order to generate header rows, we are going to use the select tool. So we're staying on the preparation menu. We're just going up towards the right-hand side, and we'll find the select tool. At the right-hand side, we'll go ahead and grab that tool and pull it onto our canvas, making sure that it connects, the input anchor of our select tool connects with the output anchor from our true condition of our filter, because the true condition is the one that has just the observations for our state. Now that we have our tool, our select tool, connected to our true condition of our filter, we can start to limit the columns in addition to the rows, because we do not need all of these columns. As I mentioned in the Excel video, we just need the columns that deal with the inflows and the outflows. That's still a significant number of columns, but it'll at least allow us to cut down on some of these. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out all of the columns that we don't need. In order to do that, we're going to go up under the Options menu, and we're going to click on the down arrow next to the options, and we're going to say select. And then as we move over, we're going to say deselect all. Because we don't want all of the columns. There's actually in this data set 151 columns. We don't want 151. We want some subset of these columns. We have 3 identifying rows. Those are our first 3 fields, so we want to go ahead and keep these columns. And then we want to keep the columns that have the inflow and outflow. And looking back at the Excel file, I noticed that these columns are going to be columns number 60 through 87 and 88 through 115. So if we scroll down here, we will find field 60. This is our beginning. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to click once on the space next to the checkbox, not the checkbox itself, but the space next to it. And we see a arrow that forms there. We'll then scroll down to 115, and before we click again, we're going to push down our Shift button and then click in that same space next to the F115. What that does is that selects all observations between the 60 and 115. These are the fields that we would like. Do not click anywhere else. Go up to Options and again hit the down menu, and then go to Select, and then go to Select Highlighted Fields. This allowed us to limit our data set just to the columns that we are going to be interested in analyzing. Now that we have the columns that we want to analyze, we also need to worry about the data type. And we talked a little bit about the second data cleansing tool, that once we change the data type, we're going to have a problem because Alteryx would only keep certain numbers that precede characters. We can see that our data in our columns, even though it's all numeric in the columns that we've selected, it has 2 different data types. It has a V_W string type, which stands for variable with string. This denotes anything. It could be characters, it could be numbers, it's some combination of both. And so this is not denoting a number by itself, it's denoting the fact that it could be just about anything in this column. And the second data type is double. Double stands for numeric in Alteryx. So we would like all of these columns that we just highlighted to have a double type. Since we still have these highlighted, we don't have to do anything yet. We can go up to Options, click on the down arrow a 3rd time, and then the 3rd option is to change field type of highlighted fields. Go ahead and click over and find double among the list, and that automatically changed all of those field types to double. We have one more field type that we need to change, and that's our first field. That is listed as a variable width string, but we know that we selected this based on the FIPS code, which is a numeric code, so we can go ahead and change that type to double as well. The last thing is putting in our header rows. So now we want to rename our columns to match our header rows, and this is going to take a little bit of time. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to demonstrate it using a few of the fields, and then I'm going to continue to execute the task, but I will do so after speeding up the video. So you will see the product and you will eventually see me run, but you will not have to sit through about a 20-minute process of renaming these fields. We'll start renaming the fields with the first 3 header rows. So the first 3 header rows should be Hawaii ID, state, and state name. Sorry, state and state abbreviation. What we see as we rename these fields is that they're highlighted in a light red, and the reason for that is so that, again, if somebody goes back to review your work or you want to take a look at what you've done, Alteryx is trying to make it very easy for you to identify what changes were made within each of these configurations. And it did the same thing for the data types that we reconfigured. And if we go back and we forgot what it was, we can see that we have our FIPS code, our Hawaii ID, we have our state abbreviation, and then we have our state. And actually looking at this, the more important designation here is the AGI category. So we'll want to rename this to AGI. Now that we have our first 3 fields identified, the more challenging part is going to be identifying all of the fields from F60 all the way down through F115. To do this, I first created a Word document that has all of the labels that I would like to use. And I did it in Word because it's a lot easier to copy and paste in Word and then use the Control Find Replace function or Control H function to just go ahead and make minor adjustments. And these names are abbreviated because we're going to have a lot of names to deal with. So AA stands for any age or all ages, and then the underscore number of returns, and then out designates for the outflow. As you can see, I have one for each of the age categories that we talked about, and then I also have repeated that process for all of the inflows. Once I have these in Word, what I can do is I can minimize my Word window so that it is off to the right-hand side of my Alteryx window. And I can go ahead and out of here just do a simple copy and then paste. And if I minimize my Alteryx window, I can have both open at the same time so that I can just quickly pull one and pop it into the other. Now that you've seen me demonstrate the first 4, I'm going to go ahead and finish this process, but do so by without any interaction on my part verbally, so that I can speed up the video and you can just watch the rest of this process get carried out and then see what it looks like after it's been run.